Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is written February of 2014. In the name of Allah, the ultimate trustee and the disposer of affairs. Terrorism is the classification of extreme behavior which exceeds the legal code, whereby acts of violence are done only for the purpose of evoking fear and helplessness in the victim, having no other purpose or for its occurrence. Hence, there are many behavior that does not classify as terrorism, which cannot be legitimately prosecuted as terrorism. Reckless driving is a form of intimidation to other drivers, whereby the reckless driver evokes fear and helplessness in the victim. However, reckless driving is not done only and solely, exclusively for the purpose of making fear and helplessness in the other drivers. So this is why reckless driving, it's not said with the name terrorism. It's not a terrorist threat to drive crazy. It is the first item on the agenda at the Geneva for the Syrian war, using the term terrorism, that parties must adopt resolutions for stopping terrorism in Syria. Frequently, the word terrorism, it's used to describe all armed opposition forces, as armed opposition forces have purposes other than to evoke fear and helplessness in the subjects. This is not a quality of terrorism. The Takfiri groups, which have been described as terrorists, they also have purposes that are not only for the reason of making fear and helplessness in the people. The danger of terrorism and the reason that the terrorist cannot be negotiated with is that the terrorists have explicitly the only purpose for invoking fear and helplessness in the targets. The legitimacy of an act to accomplish whatever purposes the people have can be identified as either strategic goals or terrorism. Although sovereign representation is recognized solely to have the rights for operation of armed forces, and non-sovereign representation does not classify as terrorism based on the agreement. Non-sovereign representation, these are non-terrorist acts done for an authentic purpose that's not for the purpose of making fear and helplessness in people. As a result, we have what are known as wars of the people, civil wars, revolts, and revolutions. These are legitimate records of our history. The name-calling of non-sovereign representation for their efforts to accomplish items which are non-terror evoking purposes. It's not a functional negotiating material. The name-calling terrorist for those whose purposes are non-terrorist is akin to calling fat people a fat cow and then trying to negotiate an international settlement using the vocabulary and the terminology fat cow. So it would sound like this in the United Nations. The first item on the agenda at the Geneva Convention should not be succeeded by any other item on the agenda. In Syria, the fat cows are destroying the infrastructure, and the fat cows are murdering people, and the participating nations must cease all support and military assistance to those fat cows. And there cannot be any resolutions for peace in Syria until all those fat cows get out. Delegates, we will now take a vote on those in favor of a plan to remove all fat cows from Syria. All those who agree on the plan, we will see to getting rid of all these fat cows. Please raise your hand high. So, that is like, terrorism is like saying that. So it continues, and this is connected. And this was written on a second day in February of 2014. Observing the beauty of the planet helps you recognize the majesty of Allah. Finely created, intricately designed nature of the world, which appeals to your senses. As you see, we are here, the human species, among animals. There are marked differences between us and the rest of the animal kingdom. There are signs of God in this. There are traits in the animals which are unique to them, and the human species has unique traits above all animals. One trait is that the human species, it can talk using language, and it can plan far in advance. Animals cannot do that. The human species will be given their record on Judgment Day. The animals will not be judged on Judgment Day. It can be seen then. We have a judgment upon us, and we have the language and the ability to plan far in advance. The record of our deeds will be handed to us. The record is derived by using language and written down for us to read. But the animals are not handed a record of their deeds. Yet animals behave in ways that can be identified as sins. Animals are sinners, some of them, and they are not held responsible. The reason for the judgment, if you see, the simple reason, it's the use of language and the ability to plan far in advance that makes the humans responsible for their deeds. The reason is that that reason is borrowed by all society's legal codes. You have to know what is the act that's considered a guilty, and you have to have a mind, your head is guilty about doing this. So you know that it's bad and you do this bad thing. It is only left for us to see our relationship to God is different from the rest of the animal kingdom, because we have a language and the ability to plan far in advance that we are being held responsible for our deeds. And now you must know, the most important asset that you have as a human being is that you are going to be in trouble if you mishandle your gifts, which have placed you far above the luxuries of animals. All of the luxuries on this planet that you have and the animals do not have, it's a product of those special traits that God gave none but the humans, the language and the planning abilities. It can be seen in our society. The language, it's so significant to the people, and that more than ever, the modern conflict, it's not simply a matter of deeds. There is an attack on the freedom to talk. All nations, even them who did not write the freedom to talk in the First Amendment of their Constitution, talking is being put in a war that originally had to do with the problem of the gluttonous deeds and exploitation and the hoarding of resources. Hoarding and gluttony is a deed. Hoarding and gluttony does not involve the speech and language. Hoarding and gluttony, it's not done for the skill of advanced planning. It can be seen that hoarders and gluttonous people fail to see in advance that those deeds are bad for the welfare of the nation. Hoarding and gluttony are guilty acts. The denial of the significance of the unique traits that human species have above animals, language and planning. On the day of judgment, the record of deeds handed to the gluttonous and hoarders of shared resources, it may sound like this. What, did you think the country cannot talk? Did you think the nation will never talk? And did you wish that the nation had no language? And you wanted that the country, it's like the animals, and therefore you will be the one to have the ability to have power in all the world. God will ask them to understand what they did and who they are. What, did you think that the country cannot plan anything? Did you think that the country, it's not smart? And did you think that the country did not have any thinking about what they want in the future? And that the country, it cannot make an adventure and explore what they can do in the future? And did you wish that the people of the country are just toys or not there? And this is from the Quran. Al-Jabiyah, if I say it. God's is the kingdom of the heavens and the earth. The day, the hour is proclaimed. The liars will be losers. You will see each community down on their knees, and they will be summoned to their account ledger of the good and the bad. You will know on that day what you have done. And this record, it will talk about you in the truthful way. We have everything you did written in this. So those who believed and did the good things, they will be admitted to the favor of their Lord. This will be a clear victory. And as for those who did not think it was true, that the bad things they did will come back to him, we will tell them, did you not hear there are messages? It was said and they were talked to you. The messages, we talked to you these messages. But you believed only in yourself, and you did very many wrong things. Allahu Akbar.